Hey guys, Ryan here with Nuclear Business Club, and I'm super excited today to be here with Bree Goldstein and Scorpio Mosley, introducing our new podcast and YouTube show, Our3Sense. It's the business show for dreamers, doers, and entrepreneurs. Super excited to have you guys here today. Thank you guys for coming out. You guys obviously are here for a specific reason. You're very entertaining, and you guys have done a lot in the business realm. So super excited to have you here. I guess what we'll start with today, since it is our first show, Scorpio, would you like to start and kind of tell us, your claim to fame, your story, so to speak, from an entrepreneurial aspect? Being that we are going to be discussing some business topics in the show.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Pleasure to be here. This is an opportunity I've been looking forward to taking advantage of over the past few months or so, getting a chance to know you and all the things that you're a part of. Definitely excited me to kind of build a relationship with you and understand a lot more about some things that can help me further my efforts in my business ventures. But looking forward to basically learning a lot here, offering a lot of my experience as well to folks that we are going to be able to talk to. I know we've talked and discussed about possibly some different interviews that we want to be able to take advantage of, and folks we want to speak to. Looking forward to learning a lot from those folks and sharing a lot with our audience and really building our brand. I mean, I think this is going to be an exciting opportunity. As far as my journey, as I look back over the years, I saw that being a business entrepreneur was something that I wanted to do. I found a number of different opportunities that didn't really pan out for me, but I think as I kind of stepped back and looked at things that I was passionate about, I found an avenue for me that not only would be something that spoke to me, which is, we'll get into a little bit more of that probably a little bit later, but kind of speaking about my eyewear and things like that. But the biggest thing for me is to be able to help the community, which I think the brand that I want to continue to build is going to help me do that. But as I look at how I want to approach things, as being a mentor and pouring back into the community, and I think that'll elevate me to where I want to be. But excited to be here. Like I said, I don't want to go too much into my story just yet. I know we'll kind of touch back on some of these things, but I'll pass it off to Bree and allow her to introduce herself a little bit here.
Well, thank you. Wow, this is really neat to be sitting on Target Studio with you, Scorpio, and Ryan, and the team here. It's just such a cool experience. So thanks for asking us to be your co-host, man.
Hey, you guys impressed me. So, you were the first people I thought of. Obviously, when I was considering who to get on the show with, I looked at a huge network of people that I happen to know. Just from various ventures, and obviously you came up first, Bree, for the female character, just because you're very interesting, zany, so to speak. You have a lot of crazy stuff going on. Fun. Yes, you're a fun mom. You're cool. You're a professor. You're a marketing genius. So really that you were the obvious choice for that role, and I really do look up to you and appreciate what you have to say. And I think that you're very very smart. So I'm glad to have you here. I think you'll add a tremendous value to this show. Scorpio, and if you guys aren't watching the YouTube portion of this show, by the way, turn it on, because this guy's looking amazing over here. I mean, good Lord. But anyways, GQ aside, Scorpio, very, very stylish guy, talented CEO for Scorpio Lamont Eyewear. I have a pair of his aviator glasses that they look amazing. The guy really is a talented designer, and just a motivational whiz. So Scorpio, glad to have you here as well, and I think you'll add a lot of value to the show also.
Looking forward to it. As far as the value that we want to be able to offer to our listeners, I think is key to be able to offer really great content. So that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to, being able to have some great interviews and really get some great content from folks that we chat with.
That's great, and I think and Bree, I think we skipped over you on a little bit. Can you tell us your claim to fame? What kind of got you started? Why where you fit into this whole entrepreneurial spectrum?
Absolutely. So I have always wanted to work for myself, but it's just been a matter of coming up with the right idea at the right time and going for it. So my journey to get to where I am and where I'm going has been a little bit different than most people that I know. It started, let me say I've lived all over the country, so I've had a lot of exposure to different types of cultures and environments. And so from Denver to Chicago to Pennsylvania, Oregon, back to Chicago, off to Calcutta, India, and now Orlando, Florida. It's been a bit, of course, right? So I went to college at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania, in Carlisle, and while I was there, I was a firefighter, which, again, once removed me, so I became an outlier in that respect. And as a college student in the firehouse, I was an outlier. And from there, I was the first female live-in, since the firehouse was established in the 1700s, the late 1700s.
Wow.
So that, again, set me apart. So I've always kind of been, I've always known people. I've always had a great network. I've always built a great network. But I've always been sort of on my own, just doing things, which works well for me. So as a firefighter, one of the things that we do is we clean up, right? After car accidents, we clean. After everything's been handled, after fires, obviously, we pick up some of the pieces. And one of those pieces that we pick up is the media component. So after a fire, the media would come over and they would say, what happened? How does this impact the community? What should we tell people? Are there products they should buy? What should they expect to spend? That sort of thing. And I saw that not just as a structure firefighter in Pennsylvania, but also as a wildland firefighter in Oregon. And when we were sent down to one of the largest fires in history at the time in Arizona, again, the media was there and they were saying, what do we tell people? It's scary. How should they feel? And, what should they buy? How can they protect themselves? When should they leave? When should they evacuate? And it just really showed me how powerful of a tool the media is to spread a message, to influence consumer behavior, to pull in experts, to promote someone as an expert, and I latched onto that. So I went to graduate school at the University of Chicago after I left the fire service, and I joined the Civil Air Patrol, where once again, interfacing with the public and the media all the time, and I, again, had the same lesson kind of ingrained in me. So at graduate school, I studied business communications, and from there I went off to Calcutta, India with a startup, and then landed here in Orlando. And when I was here in Orlando,
back up. So what was the startup? You breezed over that. What was the startup?
It was a medical billing startup. So there were two components. The India office. So we went over to audit the office. I was learning about the culture. I was going to be the kind of cultural liaison between offices.
So you were traveling to India.
We did go to India. Yep.
Oh, very cool.
Yep. We spent some time there. And then the other half of the business was headquartered at the time in Orlando with plans to move either to Reno or Chicago. But we were here. So we came back, and it was 2008, and one of the responsibilities that kind of got thrust on me was I was going to be firing Americans and outsourcing and offshoring their jobs, which hadn't sunk into me until it was blatantly expressed, and at that point I decided that it probably wasn't the best fit for me. So I left the startup and kind of got my ducks in a row, and I actually picked up a job while I got myself ready to start my own public relations agency. That was my background, and in 2012 we ended up merging with an internet marketing company. Nice. So, yeah.
Very cool.
And so I did that for quite a while, and in 2013 I found that I was having a really hard time finding anyone to hire.
Right.
The interviews just weren't going well. I wasn't getting quality candidates, just the interviews were not working. So I went to the University of Central Florida's marketing department. And the story goes, I went in to complain and came out with a job. From there, I started teaching an elective course on digital media marketing, offered every other semester. I threw out the old syllabi, created my own course, and then, of course, from there, it just kind of has continued. So now it's offered every semester. No longer is it an elective. Now it's required for sales and marketing majors. So I do that. I teach at UCF, and I consult companies on their marketing and PR. And I help a local organization, and I help a hiking fitness company out in Boston area. And I have 2 books coming out. And I'm a full-time mom. What?
Oh, yeah. It's interesting to see how that thread was all the way through each of those stops, the public relations, the marketing, how it kind of wove all those stops together. I think that's one of the things that I'm interested in seeing as we talk to various people, because I imagine there's a thread that kind of makes its way throughout your journey, kind of connects it all together. And it was interesting to hear you kind of explain that as I'm listening to you. There's a similar thread all the way through.
I think it is interesting. I love hearing people's stories, and everyone has a story, right? And I love it. I think for me, you could even say another thread would be people, because it was always the people who were integral in every step, either progressing or moving laterally It's always been the people. So as we're sitting here, Ryan, it occurs to me, I'd love to hear not just your story, but how you came up with this idea.
My brain doesn't like to stop very often, so that's unfortunately a blessing and a curse. But anyways, guys, my claim to fame, my story, the whole reason we're here today, so to speak, is I had a vision for a show that could relate to not only entrepreneurs but those dreamers out there, the ones that still haven't taken that jump, haven't taken the plunge. They're sitting there at their dead-end job that they freaking hate, and they want to kill themselves on a daily basis, and they're just sitting there saying, "Why does my life suck?" Those people are the ones we're talking to right now, okay? I'm not saying I have it all figured out, because I don't, and I'm not saying that I ever will have it all figured out, but I will say that, it's better to try than not to, and that's really what we're here for. We want to talk to these people that are already doing things. Hey, that's cool, you're already doing things. Let's level up. People who aren't doing things and are dreaming about it, let's do it. Let's take that action. Life is too short not to take the jump, okay? People got to do it. They got to do it, or you'll just hate your life and you'll settle for mediocrity. And I'll jump off my high horse now, but I just I try to live that and think of that every day in my life, because it is short, and I've had a lot of death recently in my family and in my personal life, and so I'm all in. I'm going rogue. So we're going to do this, and that's how it is. But as far as my business experience, my claim to fame, I guess I would say I was kind of a failure to launch kid. I lived with my parents till I was probably 25, maybe even longer. I'm just not going to admit that. Got married about 26 or so, and worked at a dead-end job at a certain local hospital for a long, long time. And I still have a relationship with them, so I'm not going to say names. But, long story short, I just got sick of the day-to-day grind. I got sick of working for so little money and going nowhere and spinning my wheels. And so I said, you know what, I got to try something. And so I sat and thought for a long time, and I opened what I thought was going to be this big, successful courier service, because at the time I worked at the hospital and I saw all these couriers coming in and out. I'm like, man, I got the hookups at the hospital, I got the connections, so to speak. But just when I tried to get into it, the logistics systems that these other big players already had in place, I couldn't compete. I didn't have the budget for that. I was way underfunded. I didn't have the industry knowledge. I didn't have the insurance minimums. I mean, there was so much stuff as a newbie getting into it that I was like, whoa, okay, well, that's not going to happen. So we did try it for a while, but it just failed, and that's okay. So that failed, and then I was kind of figuring out, what am I going to do? I got to do something. So I'm still working, the dead end hospital job, and my wife signed my son up for this little soccer league, and it was terrible. It was terrible. The worst league I've ever seen in my entire life. So we pay this guy I don't know, $80 or $100 or something, and he literally just sat in his car and threw out uniforms to the parents. And so we're all sitting there like, well, what do we do? Like, I'm not a coach. I don't know how to coach kids. So all the other dads were kind of sitting there too, and so finally I'm like, well, I guess I'll try and take a crack at this. And so I ended up coaching a little 2-year-old soccer team, not knowing what I was doing, and had a blast. I mean, it was fun. It was a good time, and I played with them for 2 or 3 seasons, paid them my money, and really made some valuable friendships there. And after like 2 or 3 seasons, I'm like, you know what? I've coached these kids 2 or 3 seasons now. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. And if someone tried just a little bit harder than this guy, I'm sure something could solidify, because this guy's got at least 100 kids here, and he's doing terrible. The field had ants. There was no bathrooms. The boys had to pee in the woods. The girls had to hold it or go to 7-Eleven. So it was terrible. So we said, you know what, let's see what we can do. We picked up some basic, like little road signs, flyers or whatever you want to call them, bandit signs, whatever they call them nowadays. We put those around. We put about 100 of those out in the middle of the night and see what would happen. And lo and behold, the first season we got 150 kids. It took us a long time to find a park because everyone wants to blacklist you. You got these big players, Babe Ruth, Pop Warner. They don't like little guys because they already have, industry. They already have their times. They already have their locations. So they don't want to see new players. So what we did is we went in under the preschool sports umbrella, thinking that they're not going to think we're any kind of threat. Right? We'll come in preschools. We work with kids ages 2 to 6. No big deal. It was actually 2 to 5 initially, and then we went to 2 to 6. So we did a couple seasons of that. it started growing pretty good, and so we decided let's add baseball on. So we added baseball on, and then a couple of years later, we decided let's add track and field on, and then we were like, well, we got to expand the ages. Now that we already got these contracts, now we can expand the ages. So then we added in the 7-Eleven sports to boost up to that 7-Eleven age range, and at that point there was no stopping us. We already had the relationships. They couldn't. It would have been lawsuit material if they tried to push us out of the parks at that point. I even literally Winter Springs. I'm not going to drop names because they're probably change of power at this point, but I went as far as the city commissioner of Winter Springs and said, hey, why are they pushing us out of here? I had some good relations with the park, and now all of a sudden we're being blacklisted. We're not bad people, but like I said, it's very, very political, believe it or not, for children's sports. But anyways, so that fast forward to today. Still doing the sports, but a couple of years ago I had an idea, because even though I love sports and I love working with the children and I love the different charity stuff we do and stuff, business is really my true passion, and so I had an idea for a business club. Why can't we get a business club that operates more like a gang? Why do people go to gangs? Not for the right reasons, but because they feel safe and because you have like-minded individuals that are all together. That's what we need. We need that gang of people who will protect each other, back up each other, help each other out, and not be so worried about someone else being more successful than them, because that's silly. At the end of the day, there's enough lazy people in this world. Everyone in this room can be successful. Okay, we'll be okay there. But so that's kind of it. I started the business club. It was a slow start, I'll be honest. Nothing held back here. Slow start, but it did start to grow, and now we're doing some stuff with several different companies and working with some big players throughout Central Florida and beyond, and so it's pretty exciting. But that's pretty much it, guys. And now, like I said, we're just we wanted to launch this Our3Sense podcast to kind of talk with some of the other players in Central Florida. Partially for greedy reasons. I want to meet some of these people, but also because I think it'll be fun. I think people have some insight to add, and I think this is really a nice platform to get people excited about business. Business is not boring. Business is sexy. People don't understand that. If you really, really get in there, it's fun. It's fun. It's like gambling, but you can actually tweak the odds. So anyways, that's kind of my claim to fame, guys. That's kind of why we're here. Scorpio, you were a little short on yours. Do you want to add anything else? Kind of how you got to what made you finally go into the eyewear? What made you choose that kind of thing?
Absolutely, but before I jump into that, I just want to kind of connect to what you just said, the Nuclear Business Club, because for me, as I was trying to build my brand, I was looking for different networking groups and things like that, folks that I could partner with that could, help me kind of further my efforts. So after trying that a few times, you find out that a lot of these networking groups, they probably get the things out of it that they want, but you don't get much benefit. So you hang out with some of those for a little bit, and then you just kind of move on. As I saw you with the Sandlot Sports and things like that, obviously looking pretty successful in that endeavor. And I noticed that you had the business club. I was like, man, let me connect with him. Clearly he's somebody that's doing something that's making some things happen. So that was good to see that was an opportunity for us, and I think that's what led us to where we are here today because of that business club. So definitely looking forward to continuing our relationship and see where that takes us. But overall for me, I took a different path. So coming up small town in USA, you think about one of the ways you get out of there is sports. So I wasn't as good as I thought I was in basketball, so scholarship didn't happen in that way. But I did get an educational scholarship, a scholarship that goes to school, and I basically went to UCF, finished up there. I was telling Bree about that. So just kind of taking that path, getting a degree, and then jumping into corporate America. I'm gonna be a CEO one day maybe. But kind of going down that path and giving that your all, making that happen, and being successful in that regard. I have no complaints about my professional career, but at the same time, being an entrepreneur at heart, that there's some things that I can do for my company. There's a legacy that I can build for my family if I put all that effort into what I want to do. So a number of different things I've tried over the years, some things that weren't as successful as I thought they would be, so that kind of made me a little bit gun shy. So as I kind of stepped back from that approach, I was looking for eyewear one day, and it was really straightforward, just kind of looking for glasses that would fit me, and I realized that there aren't a lot of players in the game, in the eyewear game, that would offer frames that fit me with a lot of options. So as I did a little bit of research, I found that there's a couple companies, larger companies that corner the market, vertically integrated companies that kind of own distribution, own the design, own all the different brands and things like that. Really, there is space for those independent brands that can cater to specific niches. And I found that if I kind of approach that particular niche, there'd be an opportunity for me. So for me, it's really eyewear that's a little oversized, that's going to fit someone that may have a wider PD, peripheral difference, if you will. And so at this point, it's really a matter of trying to brand the company and continue to put the name out there and get some folks that are aware of the brand and kind of continue to push things forward. But I really kind of fancy that as the front for what I really want to do, which I mentioned earlier is being a mentor to my community. So not only do I do that, but we also have a 501c3 back where I'm from, a small town, to be able to invest in the local community, to be able to mentor kids. So that's really what I want to be able to kind of pour into. Obviously, being successful, make a really name for my brand is a part of that, but also being able to pour back into the community is a part of the journey as well. So that's kind of where we are now, and again, all this information that I want to be able to kind of glean from you guys and the folks that we bring on the show is going to be helpful for me as well.
I love it. Bree, you got
That's
anything
awesome.
to add there?
No, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, I think that's a great story. Especially the different challenges you face because of the various amounts of careers you've had. I mean, that's crazy. You've rose up through the ranks. In both the corporate world and as your own CEO. You work for the CEO and then become it. That's a fantastic story in itself. I think the biggest thing that we need to work on, for this show is just to give the viewers what they want, which is basically those hard hitting questions of how do I make it in this crazy world we call business?
Right.
How does a normal person get all this stuff that they see everybody else have? Because life's not all about money. We all know that, but we all would be lying to ourselves if we didn't say that money gives you a certain amount of experiences, and life is only so long. I mean, you want those experiences because you can't take them with you, So regardless of religious beliefs, if this is the only life we have, you got to take advantage of it, So get up off the couch, take the next step, get on Google, get on YouTube. That's pretty much your new Encyclopedia Britannica for you older folks out there who are probably watching us, listening to us on the podcast and not on YouTube. Guys, just really take that next step. That's all I can say. Take the next step. Bree, anything else that you have to add to that?
Well, you reminded me of one of my favorite quotes just now, which isn't YOLO, you only live once, but really, you only die once. You have the opportunity to live every day. And I think that's something that most people at least me, I don't take advantage of that every day, right? I get complacent, I get in my routine. But if you think about it, you have the opportunity to live every single day to make a decision. And who was it? The Dalai Lama said that, and I'm going to paraphrase, I won't quote him directly, but he had said that there are only 2 days that you can't control and 1 day that you can. Right? You can't control yesterday and you can't control tomorrow, but you can control today.
Yeah.
Right? You can control how you react, how you respond, your behavior, your actions, yourself. So when I think about his words and I think about you only die once but you live every day, I think that has a lot of power behind it, and especially for people who are in business, starting businesses, thinking about it, right? Whether they're a dreamer, a doer, or somewhere in between.
It brings me back to where I'm from, and you see a lot of people that have dreams of doing great things. So they think about all these things that they want to accomplish, but the one thing that a lot of people are stuck on is actually making that first step. So I think if you can continue to find ways to move yourself to make that first step is what I think most people need more than anything. Yeah. All these great ideas, all these thoughts. I think all that is there. But being able to step out and make that first step is probably the biggest issue that a lot of people have.
Take the leap.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're here for. I think honestly, our mission with this whole entire show is to show people that other people have paved this way. Other people have done this. Real people. These aren't people that won the lottery and you've never met them and they're some foreign state. This is real people. In our community and obviously extended. But guys, the biggest thing is I know it's scary. I've been in that situation. I've had starting my own first business for instance, it was terrifying. I mean, we were so poor that I was literally stealing toilet paper from the college, stealing trash bags from the hospital. I mean, we were poor as shit, for lack of better words. We were poor, and I have 4 children. So for me to step out and then have to start a business on several credit cards, and to take that leap of faith, I mean, it could have turned out completely different. It could have been my wife leaving me and me filing bankruptcy, but at a certain point, I just said to myself, you know what, I'm all in. Now, I don't recommend that for everybody, because I'm much more hardcore than some in the business world. In the real world, I'm not hardcore at all. And you guys know that, I'm a softie. But sometimes you just got to take that risk. And like I said, I can't suggest that for everybody, because what I did was incredibly reckless and negligent. But something inside me will not let me rest until I've accomplished certain things in my lifetime, and I may never accomplish them. I may die next week, probably from stress. But regardless, guys, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. I love what I do. I really, truly love working. I think you guys do as well. I mean, I see the passion in your eyes when we talk about business. I mean, we're talking about business. These camera guys you can't see out of the side are falling asleep because they're probably terribly bored about everything we have to say. But truly, honored to be on the show with you guys. Anything else? We'll kind of sum it up and maybe introduce our next guest if you guys are thinking we're ready for that. Unless there's anything else you guys want the audience to know about you, so to speak.
I think maybe, if it's all right with you, why don't we share maybe one takeaway nugget that folks can apply today to wherever they are, whatever they're thinking of or whatever they're doing.
I got mine already.
Let's hear it.
No excuses, guys. No excuses, okay? It's easy to make excuses or put things off. Don't procrastinate. Procrastination is the worst thing you can do, okay? Like I said, I was failure to launch for 10 years. That was because I was procrastinating, okay? I was too busy partying with my friends, all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you what, guys, now I party with my friends all the time, and it feels great because you know why? I can actually pay the bill if I want to. Being poor is not fun. So do the work now, and you will reap the rewards in the future, okay? So don't procrastinate, and don't be afraid.
So like Jocko Willink, discipline equals freedom.
Love extreme ownership.
Discipline equals freedom!
Oh my God, the audio book. Got to do the audio book.
For me, go ahead, Scorpio.
For me, it's believing in yourself. At the end of the day, especially if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you want to start that business, make that change in your life, you got to believe in yourself. No one's going to believe in you for you. So it starts there inside of you, because that's what it's going to motivate you to make that first step. So believe in what it is you want to accomplish. You may not have it all figured out from day one, but if you start the journey, you'll start to figure it out as you start to make progress. I'm a firm believer in you don't finish where you start. So if you start the process, I think you'll end up where you want to be. If you're not where you want to be exactly, at least you'll be further along the spectrum than where you started.
That's great. I would say make sure it makes sense. Whenever we have a new business idea, and we've had some really cool, fun, awesome ideas, but they didn't hit all of our kind of initial benchmarks, to get over that initial challenge or obstacle to actually run with it. So make sure you have a path to market, other than ads and social media, like a path to market. Make sure you identify your market and you have an actual way to reach them. And also make sure the numbers make sense, right? Crunch the numbers of what is it going to cost to get this up and running and then to maintain it? What's going to be your burn rate? Then how do you meet those numbers? Whether it's a subscription model or membership or cost for service or fees or whatever it is, right? Figure out your numbers first, because it's a pretty easy way to kill a business.
Nice. Well, I have to say, Bree's was much better than ours.
That's why they call me Professor.
But that was good. That was actually I mean, me and Scorpio gave you the happy-go-lucky portion, but Bree, that was actually some very valuable information. So thank you. That's why we have you here, because I'm the feel-good guy, and I know Scorpio. He's very good at that as well. We are both knowledgeable, I promise, but I do think that Bree holds some special expertise in that area. So thank you for sharing that, because that was actually a lot more valuable. Actually some action steps, because I've had businesses that I get excited about, failure to do my due diligence on proof of concept, and I end up losing a lot of money in the at the end of everything. And so yeah, definitely great advice, Bree. Great advice on that. Make sure to do your research, guys. It's not hard nowadays. Everything's available on the internet. And I think that's a great takeaway, more so than my just try hard. But that's it. I mean, do you guys have anything else you want to add in? Any kind of teasers? Anything you got going on in your social media or your personal lives?
Well, we do have some really cool, very cool guests coming on, so we might want to kind of mention them. And I would say find us on social. Find me on Twitter at Bree Goldstein. Tweet me. I'll tweet you back. You'll see me occasionally checking my phone. So if you do tweet me, I'm happy to get back to you as soon as I can, and call us. We'll give you our phone number for the podcast YouTube show, so you can actually reach out to us at times, and we can go through some of your questions live.
Sounds good. I can reach Scorpio Lamont Eyewear, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as well. But definitely looking forward to any feedback, input you have on the show. We definitely want to be as impactful and add value to all the listeners, subscribers down the line.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. I second Bree's notion there. Please search for us on YouTube, SoundCloud, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be on as many platforms as possible very quickly. This is obviously new. We will also start doing some Facebook Live during the shows, allowing for call-ins. So we will be excited for that as time progresses. And we will also do a Facebook Live portion of the show if everything works out in the future and we get a little better at what we're doing here.
Do you want to share about a couple of the guests coming on that we have?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that. So first off, for episode 2, which we're very excited about filming next week, we will have Emma Reichert. Emma Reichert is the owner of ER Real Estate Group. She is also the administrator, founder, and owner of the MyOvito store and the MyOvito Facebook page, which has over 27,000 active participants. So a pretty big deal. We're super excited to really have her here, especially since she does have such a connection in the community. She's pretty much a local celebrity, so to speak. If you're in Oviedo, you know who she is. And we want to kind of talk to her a little bit about how she does it. I mean, she runs 3 companies. She maintains this sense of omnipresence on social media in addition to real life. And it's fascinating, quite frankly. I don't know how she does it, but I would love to see, and I would love to talk with her more about that. And I think it'll be some valuable insight for those who know her personally and would love to listen to the interview, maybe hear some stuff you didn't know about Emma. Also, I think that it will be just be a good interview really all around. I'd love to hear her claim to fame, and I'd love to hear some tips and tricks on how she stays so active on social media. I don't know if she's got a team. I don't know if she's pre-planning posts. I don't know if there's certain platforms she just ignores, like I do. I don't know. So that'll be super exciting. Also, we have a very, very exciting guest coming up for episode 3 as well, but we'll give you a little bit more about that next week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Bree, Scorpio, you guys rock. You guys were so great today. Thank you guys for listening.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Pound it.
Thank you guys. Boom.
Good job.